A lot going on in the month of November. Make sure to remember that the entire month of November on BureauCustomGear.com, a portion of proceeds go to help our friends that were affected down in the Southeast by the hurricane. And also, the entire month of November, every order gets a chance to win a brand new Matthews of your choice, a Lift X, an RS, whatever you want of your choice. One order is one entry. If you buy a pack of UV1K B-Real arrows, you get 10 extra entries. So a lot going on. Make sure to help out our folks down in the Southeast with an order, and it automatically gets you entered to win a new Matthews. Welcome to November. This is probably the second or third or maybe even fourth video on kind of our bow launch series that we do every single year, where we build a bunch of bows and eventually we roll out our hunts. We are going to build another bow today, another lift. This is the rig that is in the previous bow build, but when we did that bow build, it was back in August, and we've kind of ran it through the paces now that it's November. The Lift X, once again, absolutely phenomenal. But what we are going to do is we're going to retire this one for now, and we are going to build what is in this box and keep on rocking with this during whitetail season, the rest of whitetail season, because it's just interesting, and it's a little whitetail killer in my opinion, because I loved my V327. Shot my Kansas buck with that deer. It was so small. It was great for saddle hunting, great for just any sort of tree stand blind encounter type stuff. So I'm excited to get a very similar axle bow back in my hands. Oh, I forgot. And we got an interesting color on this one. We have, of course, Bridgelock stabilizers. Pair of those. We have a side stabilizer mount. We have a QAD, a low pro quiver, and then the bow. This is the Lift RS. I like to say the Lift Racing Speed RS, because this thing is going to be incredibly fast, especially how I'm going to rig it up. And I got it in the fade to black. I didn't think that I would get it, but I started seeing it on a bunch of bows, especially this OD green to black, fade to black, is pretty dope. So the Lift RS is a 27.75 axle bow, incredibly light. The original Lift was so light, and this is even smaller, that it's even lighter, it's smaller, and it is essentially replacing also the Prima, which the Prima was a kid's bow, women's bow, small draw length bow, or small poundage bow. So this bow you can actually get in two different series of limbs. You can get a heavy poundage limbs or a light poundage limbs, and it offers kids or women or anyone with a lesser of a draw length, lesser of a poundage, to be able to shoot this bow, to shoot a standard Lift riser, this Lift RS riser, and still get those super low specs. So that's really cool. We got the heavy pound mods. I mean, it can go all the way up to 80 pounds. This bow is actually only at 75 pounds, which I haven't got a 75-pound bow in a while, but just being a little whitetail killer is my plan. We're just gonna do that. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, we're gonna start bolting everything on the bow, and I'll kind of keep talking through and walking through it. But I guess before we do that, let me pull up. I have a fancy PDF of all the specs, because I know you guys are gonna ask about the specs. So let me go ahead and pull that up. The Lift RS has speeds up to 353 feet per second. Unreal fast. Brace height is 5.5. Axle 27.75. Physical weight is 3.92 pounds. So the original Lift was 4 pounds, and that was one of the lightest bows on the market. Now it's 3.92. This might be the lightest bow on the market. Don't quote me on that. Standard draw weights, the standard ones, so the heavier limbs, the peak weights can come in 55, 65, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, or 80. And then the lightweight limbs, the lower poundage limbs, peak weights come in 41, 45, 49, 52, 56, or 60. So if you order it at 41, you can get probably down into the low 30s as a draw length out of this bow. And then the draw lengths go all the way down to 23.5 and then all the way up to 29. This is the also thing about this bow is it gets cut off at 29 inches. So if you're a super long draw type of guy, this bow is not for you. It is for 29 inches and under, so I'm like 28, 28 and a half. This bow, honestly, is going to be absolutely killer money for me. And then, of course, we have the Lift XD, which we are not going to, at least right now, I'm not going to get it, but that's up for our long draw, folks. 363 feet per second, 6.75 brace height, 33 axle still, so it's still similar to the Lift 33. But draw lengths are 32 to 33 and a half. So only your long draw people. It's a new, slightly new cam system. It's the SWX cam, specifically designed for your long draw people. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna start bolting everything on the bow and get this thing set up. Oh, wow. That really just fell apart. Let me fix this first. Okay. Fix the bow vise. Okay, we're just gonna start bolting these bad boys on. We got a 12-inch bridge lock stabilizer, which been running the bridge lock stabilizer since it came out, which was 3 years ago, 2 years ago? I forget now. Machined out of aluminum, super light bar, super stiff bar, and then they work with the bridge lock technology. Essentially, you slip it right into these cutouts in the riser, and it has a direct connection with the bow, so it's more stable. And it evaporates vibration even faster. If I can find, there we go. And they clamp down with these little screw head things, and they have divots all in here, so you have to line up exactly which one you want. And if you get it just right, you can kind of hear them as you move it. Kind of demonstrate. You can hear all the different divots, so you kind of line them up whichever one you want. And that's the great thing is, you know, or you can have the extreme flexibility of different feels very fast of a stabilizer in your weight. So you can kind of very quickly on the fly. Or what I love, what really practical use for me is if I'm in a ground blind, what I do is I scooch that bad boy in real quick, and then that's that. Here's one thing about the RS that I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna love it. I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll probably just be a different feel. But for this back bar, they have no back grommet right here because the riser is too small. And they had to cut it down, and that was one of the sacrifices that they had to do, was to unfortunately eliminate that back grommet. So we're gonna experiment with it. I know some guys have already been running it like that. I'm sure it'll feel fine because you can run it how I'm going to show you in standard bows, and I ran it like that with standard bows, but just kind of become accustomed to that back grommet right there. But we'll get this thing mounted on and I'll show you guys. So we're going to use that bolt right there, that piece, and that piece. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to install this upside down just because I want the flat part. There's a flat part right here, and then there's this rounded dished out part. We don't want the dished out part. We always want the flat part, because that connection point is going to be right there up against the riser, and that'll prevent it from swaying back and forth. The same thing always goes on that back grommet if you're going to do that. But we're going to install this, and then we'll swing it down and around and get it in the right position. But for right now, it'll just appear upside down. And then it's always great to use a long T handle or big lever type Allen wrench like I'm using right now to get this in place, because it does have a lot of weight and leverage on it, so you just really want to ream it down. Okay, so now we're going to get this looking right. That spins around like that. So essentially, if you want to run a back bar, it's going to be mounted just like that. So it kind of goes on top of the bridge lock. A little goofier, but that's the way you do it if you want the Lift RS and want a back bar, because the thing's so light. What was it, 3.9 pounds or something? Weighs sub 4 pounds. Okay. Stabilizer. So that's what it's going to look like. And I'm going to mess around with it a little bit. And really, I bet I would want maybe even a 12-inch out the back, because you cut down on a lot of distance in your stabilizer, because now you're mounting in the front compared to your mounting in the back normally. So I ordered a 12 and a 10, which is what I normally run out the back grommet, because then it about equals out 12-12. But now with the 10 in the back is more like 8 or 7, even with this how it is. So anyways, I can figure it out. I mean, if the feel is wrong, luckily, that's tight. Luckily, I can just scooch this in a little bit. You know, I can do something like this. I can do something like that just to get that feel right. Okay. Next, let's go ahead and do the rest. This is the QAD tried and true rest that I've been running for such a long time. MX2? MX2, I believe it's the MX2. Fantastic QAD rest. I've been running QAD for a long time just because it is the absolute best rest in my opinion if you're shooting on a Matthews bow. It has rubber, little injection molded rubber pieces all around so that you don't have to use as much moleskin to make it quiet, which I absolutely love. Micro adjustable, center shot lines, all that fun stuff. Super small, super light. Some of the other rests are super heavy, just weighs down your bow. So we're all about being light and then being heavy in the right spots. Being heavy in the right spots means stabilizers, not necessarily the mass weight of the bow. Although some people do like a heavier mass weight bow, and that's all personal preference. But for stability, mass weight in the right places always helps. So helps cutting down on some of this weight. Okay, get this bad boy set up. Wrong one. By the end of it, it never fails. You always got to pull out every single Allen wrench that you have. Copy break, technical difficulties. We've been hunting. All of our gear's been getting abused. Some fog got in the lens, so if it looked a little foggy there at the end, that's what happened. But we're back up and rolling. Stabilizers on, rest, here we go. We're going to actually spin this around so you guys can see. Move our heater because it's actually cold now in November, which is great because it used to be just a couple days ago. It was so hot. Okay, so as you guys know, if you watch my bow builds, there's this tiny little etching right here, which is our center shot line. That's our little center shot line right there. So that is our home base. And that's the philosophy for Matthews, as I'll go into some other philosophies. Center shot, center shot, center shot. Things should not move outside of center shot within reason. And if they do move way outside of center shot, something's wrong. So this rest, we are going to install it with our little white line right there. You can see white line right there is right at that etched in, engraved in line. It's actually a little high. There we go. So that just kind of holds it in place. That doesn't lock it down. So now we take this screw and our big clamp right here, and we clamp this in. So this is at 100% perfect up and down, left and right, center shot, because this was our up and down. And then on this side, right there, you can see the 0. So we're left and right zeroed, up and down zeroed. Technically, all goes well. You don't have to move a thing. And then if you do have to move a thing, then we do our limb shift technology, which is new. No more top hats. We'll do our limb shift stuff first, and then we'll go to our rest if we have to do anything really small. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to throw on the B-Reel grip. The B-Reel grip still works on these new Matthews bows. I know there's going to be a lot of questions because they have, you know, their new line of grips Matthews does, but the B-Reel grip still works. Nothing has changed on that front. So we're going to install one of these bad boys. And these actually now, I think, yeah, are friction fit. So no more nastiness, no more glue. You can just swap it out pop the B-roll grip back in, pop the rest, and we'll be good to go. And that actually looks really good, the black on black, and then fades. The fade to black. Okay, we are going to, since Matthews and UltraView doesn't love me enough, I only have one sight right now. So we are going to snag this sight off of my primary, my Lift X that I've been using all year. And luckily though, I won't have to change too much because I do have an extra cartridge. I have an extra 5-pin cartridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the cartridge that I have in here that's properly set up for my Lift X. Old 5-pin off my Lift X is going to go off to the side. We're going to install this new one in my slider, and we have another video coming out that's going to go over this completely, but if you guys have been living under a rock, this is the new MATHEWS Genuine UV Slider 2.0. Huge partnership with UltraView and MATHEWS that luckily, unfortunately, I've been a part of to help, kind of help on the behind the scenes thing to make sure the project comes to life and the design and the all around, because I work with both teams very, very, very closely. So this is a super fun project, super innovative. A lot of the pain points that were in the 1.0, even though there was not a lot of pain points in the 1.0, are 100% fixed in this, especially for the MATHEWS bow. Optimized for the MATHEWS bow is the number one thing going into this. So with the bridge lock technology and everything, essentially, because if I'm trying to do the whole deal, sights up until this point have been built as sights and then put on the bow. This sight was built with the bow in mind from the very beginning. How does it work with the bow as a system rather than something you just bolt on the side of it? So I'm pretty pumped. It's been awesome. There's been 0 pain points, and sometimes you even forget that it's there because it's so streamlined. But we'll get this thing installed. We'll have to get it resighted in and all that fun jazz, but it'll be good. And notice how loose it is in there? That's how you want it. There's nothing wrong with that. You want it in there loose, and then what happens is this drive screw comes down and shoves it into the little corner as if you were in timeout, and it's going to stay there forever. Shoves down in the bridge lock corner. Give it a good little crank. And she ain't going nowhere. But I know there's probably going to be comments on that because this bar is a little bit smaller than the standard one to cut down on weight. But it shoves down into that corner, into that crease, and locks in super tight. Now, got to put a peep sight in. Quarter. I have to steal a peep sight, to be honest. So I'm going to steal it out of this. This was our turkey bow. So RIP to the turkey bow. If you ever take a peep sight out of an old bow, make sure, oh, I just ripped that out. I was going to say, make sure you keep it in there. Okay, it's still formed. Stick this in there so that you know you're dividing your middle string line. If you look at old bows, yeah, like that one's got an old piece of string in it right there. This one, that one's got a piece of string. So if you just throw a piece of string in there, just make sure that you know your middle dividing line in your string so that you don't throw it off if you're a couple strands off one or the other when you put a peep sight in. Okay. Gosh, this thing's a sick little rig. I'm definitely going to have to move this stabilizer down though. It's already in the way. That is going to be a little whitetail killer. Okay, and then dirty little trick for this. So you take a previous bow, which is a different axle, smaller axle bow. Typically you want your peep sight a little higher up the string to get the same view. So, dang, this is going to be all the way up to the serving nearly. Probably going to want, I have the servings lined up right here. And then you can see my Lift X 29.5 is a little lower than how I'm going to initially set it up on my 27, my RS. because shorter axle bows trend a little higher on your peep sight, and then bigger axles bow, typically you trend the peep sight a little lower just because of the string angle and how you look through them. I'm going to put the rest cord in real quick. Okay, so we have peep sight in, which is important for when you get your D-loop, your knock sets, and everything like that, because as you separate the string kind of twists around a little bit. So you always want to make sure you put that in. I just put the rest cord in since we were on the bow press. So now what we're going to do, we're going to put it back in the vise. We're going to get our center shot and get our rest in the right spot, get our knocking points in the right spot, get all that tied in. We'll tie in our peep sight. We'll double check our peep sight. We get our rest timing correct. Shoot it through paper, and then we'll go outside. But these are our UV1Ks, our Bureau custom UV1Ks. We're going to open this up because I'm going to try to see if I can get these arrows to tune, which there's a million seals on this bad boy, so hold on. These arrows are 26-inch, 350 spine 001 UV1Ks. Small little darts. Out of my other bow, I was shooting 27-inch, 300 spine at 80 pounds, 81 pounds. And now 28-inch RS at 75 pounds. We're going to try to shoot a 350 spine at 26 inches. Is it going to be possible? I don't know. The length is a thing. I'm going to be right at the edge of the rest. And then spine is a thing. I'm just hoping it's not too weak. However, I think it's going to be fine. I think we'll work it out. But we'll be able to get some pretty cool speeds out of this. Oh, what I need to do first is put this moleskin on. I forgot to do that. Moleskin on the rest. Where did that go? It's hot in here now. Is it getting hot? Yeah. I've been ripping this little heater. Like I said, it's finally cold here in Iowa. It's been so warm for a minute, but now shop's getting too hot. Okay, moleskin. We get our 5,000th knife from QAD. Thank you, QAD, because these are great little shop knives. But what we're after is this little moleskin guy right here. We're going to put that on our rest, which is best to do before the rest is installed, but I forgot to do that. It's pretty easy to install. Put it in the middle. Just like that. And a lot of times I like to take an Allen wrench and just kind of touch it up, make sure it's good. And then another little trick, you could get a flame to it to kind of cement it in a little bit more, but with these new rests, there's so little amount of moleskin right there that it sticks really good. It's not like you're going to have a lot of hang points. Okay, moleskin's installed, and I wanted to do that because it's going to affect how the arrow sits. Okay, arrow, then we need this guy right here. So we're going to clip on the serving before we put the arrow on, and we're going to get the bow level. Perfect. Pop that off. Here is our arrow leveler. We pretty much want that thing to show level. And what I like to do is favor the bubble on that side so it's a little knock high. So we're going to go right there, but I'm going to need a little piece of serving material. Looks good. And that little tie, it just kind of keeps the arrow there for a second. That looks good, and you want to make sure that rest is bumped up all the way. So the rest is up, the rest is down. Up, down. The bubble moves about, I don't know, quarter, maybe an eighth of that bubble. So it's important that you hold this rest up. You hold it up as you're getting these little fine-tuned measurements. Okay. Looks pretty good right there. Game time decision. We're going to use lighted nocks. I was trying not to use lighted nocks because they're always a pain in the butt. But I'm going to take this off, put one on. These are the Halo nocks. These are the best lighted nocks for these arrows. And honestly, the best lighted nocks, in my opinion, the way that they shut off is phenomenal. And they've worked 100% of the time. It's just, I got to buy. These are my last two, so now I got to buy another dozen. Because I have to shoot with them. I always have to shoot with them. And if I decide to shoot with them, I'm going to shoot with them always. Okay. We're locked in. Double tie. Do our little square knot. Burn that down. And then this is, I've done it on the last couple bow builds. I haven't always done this, but I feel like it's kind of a good thing to do. I do this little super glue, maybe. Oh, we're seized up here. Just kind of holds that knot in place a little bit better. And that particular glue, I don't know, someone sent it to me, so it's kind of just a nice little bottle to squeeze. Okay, now we're gonna do the bottom knot. And my rule of thumb is to avoid knock pinch, especially on a bow like this that's super small axle. You want about a serving thickness distance to let the knock breathe pretty much, and as you draw back, it doesn't pinch on it like crazy. So it's about a serving thickness there. Do our square knot. Then we'll double check. Yep, see how the knock just wiggles a little bit right there? That's what you want. You want there to be a little wiggle, because as you draw back, the string pinches down, it pinches a knock, it gets smaller, that space. So you want to make sure that there is just a little bit of play in there. Okay, lighter. There, little drop of super glue. Okay, now we're going to actually do the D-loop. Cut ourselves off a chunk. Then we fluff it up like crazy. And the old tried and true Jesse Broadwater once told me that if you light this on, if you get this hot enough to where it catches on fire, you deteriorate the materials in there and they become more brittle. So you want to just kind of fan the flame. Just create a nice little bulb right there, just by getting it hot enough to melt it and not catch it on fire. I end up always burning it a little bit every now and again. It's kind of inevitable. Okay, get that hand tight, wrap around. Do it just like that. Get our knife. Cut it about right there. And then we fluff this side up, which is always a little tougher doing this side, because you just got a tighter space. See, I caught that one on fire, which isn't great, but it wasn't like crazy. You don't want it like on fire and crackling and then you blow it out and you smash it. That's always the worst thing you can do. Pull up on it a little bit to get this all nice and squished down. I think this will be a little bit longer D-loop is kind of what I was going for, because sometimes these shorter axle bows, it's a little bit better if you have a little bit longer D-loop on them to get just a different feel. So pretty average D-loop. It is, I would say, a touch longer than you could go. I mean, you go shorter than that for sure. But I'm going to double check that my peep height is correct. Just with this shorter axle bow, it's not like I can rinse and repeat with like a 30-inch bow. So just gonna draw back over here, and I'll be able to double check my, make sure my arrows don't fall off my rest, because I'm running it about as close to the edge as you can get. I got about a 1/4 inch on the arrows. That peep sight is actually perfect. That bow is so tiny. By drawing that bow back, we did a couple things. We checked if this arrow is going to be okay, and it is. It's a 26-inch arrow, 28-inch draw length. So if you're shooting an ultra rest MX or a QAD, really any QAD, if your recommended draw length or the draw length on your cams, if it's 29, if it's 30, if it's 31, you can technically cut up to 2 inches or subtract 2 inches from that to get your arrow length if you order the UV1 case. So if you're 31-inch draw length, you technically could order a 29-inch arrow and have about a 1/4 inch. It's a little tight. I probably would only do up to 1.5 inches unless you are a gambler like myself and will run it all the way to the edge. But that's the one thing we did. The second thing we did is we set our rest cord. So I'm going to get that tied up right now. And then we made sure our peep sight is in the right spot. And you can see on this peep sight, this top serving is actually going to be our top tie-in, because this bow is so small, our peep sights ran all the way up to there. So I'll just tie it around and then tie a bottom, and we'll be good to go. Okay, and the reason I like to put it in the bow press for this step is because I can add a little bit of, or less tension on the string, so I can bunch it in, get a little bit tighter, tie it in, and then when you let the bow out, the tension, it just makes it tighter. It like kind of pops it out. I'll slip it all the way up to about right there. Bunch that up. Okay, peeps tied in. Now we're going to get that back tension-wise. Then we're going to do our rest. I just like to tie a knot, and we'll burn it. Cut it and burn it just like we do a D-loop. And this one I will catch on fire. I really don't care about. It's not really load-bearing. So I'll catch on fire and then smash it down. Then it always creates a little bit of slack in there that you gotta pull out. And then I always readjust it up on the sight, or up on the rest cord just a little bit. But I do like doing this the most. It's a simplistic knot. Burn it just like a D-loop, rip it tight. And then I'll double check the timing on the draw board, which is next. Okay. Preemptively kind of change that because I figured it's gonna need it. I'll do the draw board for rest timing, double check, and then our actual cam timing. Bottom's there. Man, it is. I think it's good, actually. Okay, now rest timing is at full standing there. Got that much more draw length. It's about 1 inch. Might want to tighten that cord up just a tiny bit more. Okay, should be good. Now we will shoot through paper, double check our peep rotation. We're getting very close. Moment of truth. We're gonna shoot this bad boy through paper, see how close we got it right. Very close. A little high right. We'll see if we can get this thing tuned and dialed in. Hope that these arrows aren't under spine because I really want to shoot them. I'm just gonna do it one more time. That's a dang near bullet. It's just a little knock high. All right, so we're gonna bump the rest up just a little bit. Perfect peep sight. Let me shoot that again. It's either a bullet hole or it's kind of a weird, the paper teared weird. Getting like a high right. Man, that's tough to tell what direction that is. I'm gonna back up just a little bit and it should amplify it. Okay, yeah, I did a little bit. High right. Okay, we can fix that. High right, so we need to do left and up just a little bit. What I'm actually gonna do is, it's small enough I could probably just bump the rest, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to do the new limb shift. What you gotta do is you take off the same axle screw like you would normally do for top hats, and then it uncovers in there a big Allen wrench head. It's pretty large. It's probably larger than a lot of, at least what I thought. I thought it'd be a tiny little Allen head in there, but there we go. And we are literally going to shift. So you can see right there's a bunch of dash marks and a little tiny line. So we're going to shift that line to the right because our fletchings are to the right. It's tail right. So I just moved it maybe a half a dash line. So we shifted that, and you just put your axle screw right back in. No bow press necessary. Way faster, way cleaner, in my opinion. Huge upgrade from the top hat system, and it feels so far really bulletproof. You know, one thing I always talk about with the top hat systems is they're bulletproof, they're solid pieces, they're not going to move anywhere. I do feel like that is 100% true with this also. The boys kind of nail it out of the park for a super simple system. There's not a lot of extra parts. It's a super simple system, which it's all about simplicity. That's where stuff works, and that's where stuff is pretty concrete. Okay, let's see if we can get it this time. Looks pretty dang good if you ask me. I'm gonna shoot one more just to make sure, a little bit further back. Yeah, money. Right there, perfect bullet hole. Maybe just a scotch high. Oh, just a tiny bit high. Okay, I'm just gonna move it just a tiny wee bit, and then we'll be good. Okay, our bow is tuned. We got a bullet hole. Let's check the poundage on it. We'll do our spec lineup here. Feels a little hotter than 75 pounds, to be honest. Oh, 80 pounds. I wonder if they sent me 80-pound limbs on accident. Oh, they did. No, that's 80% let off. No, they sent 75 pounds. That's crazy. Let me try my other scale, because these scales sometimes can be goofy. $78. A little hot. Well, that's good. We got a bullet hole out of this arrow then. That's very surprising. It's always, especially talking to the engineers up there, I was like, man, I need 250 spine arrows, blah, 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 shooting 80 pounds. And they're like, you can get away with a lot if you got a properly tuned bow with a lighter spined arrow, a weaker spined arrow, especially out of a Matthews bow for some reason. So I'm gonna run it. If I got a bullet hole and they shoot good, I'm gonna run it. Okay, so I'm gonna get the targets ready. Oh, before we do that, let's shoot this thing out of the chrono. My guess is very fast. That is my guess with this bow. Wow. 312 feet per second is absolutely smoking. Let's see what our arrow weight is. That's what I wanted though. I want a fast little whitetail bow. 434, okay, that's still really good in that mid 400 range. Love the mid 400 range on whitetail, especially I just shot the 6x4 2 days ago. Giant body, old body, shot it right through the edge of the shoulder with a mechanical, and blew through, stuck in the ground like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 inches stuck in the ground. So that proves that I love these mid 400s for whitetails, higher poundage, faster bows, mid 400s, phenomenal. So now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna get the targets lined up outside. We're gonna get our sight tape dialed in with the new Matthews Genuine. We'll be good. When sighting in your Matthews Genuine UV, always use the middle pin. Whatever cartridge you're using, always use the middle pin to aim with getting your 20 mark and to aim with getting your 60 mark. It works best that way. After you get sighted in, you get your mark or your sight tape number, then you can extrapolate everything out and go from there. So I'm using my middle pin on this 5-pin to get sighted in. Very nice. That flew very good too, I could see. So that is promising. Shot number 2. Okay. Too much. Too much again. Very close. Looks pretty dead money to me. Okay, so now we have our setup tape still over on this side. I'm going to adjust this tape, I'll loosen these 2 screws, shift it up to line it up with my 20 yarder right there. Get sighted in for 60 and we'll be off to the races. Okay, we are on our 20. I hope we don't need a speed tape for this guy, because I was number 6 on my last one, and that bow was like 290. This one's 312. I bet we're gonna need sight tape number like 1, probably. We'll start there, we'll try that. Go pull my arrows and we'll shoot at 60. Okay, 60 yards, here we go. This bow shoots really good. For being small axle, it's holding really, really good. And they are flying like absolute darts, I can just tell. Might be in the negative sight tapes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, -1. Hopefully they come with those. I don't think they do. They like come down to 1. That's unfortunate. Okay, well, let's double check that we're truly are not 1. Okay, that one wasn't that bad. I'll just try to get a group. 60 yards always takes a little bit, so let's see what we got. It's in the dot. Right there in the dot. It's actually, we're trending a little low now, which is good. That one's gonna be left. Yep, a good height. Like an inch low. So we want to be sight tape number 2 maybe now. I don't know what was up with my first one there where I said that was high, so I'm probably right in between 1 and 2, but I'm going to shoot it again. Shoot it again, we'll see. What I am going to do though first is, this is the tinkering part that takes forever and the days following in the bow build, but my peep sight is just a little crooked. So I'm going to spin it real quick. Let's give it a half a turn in the string. Feel like we should be good to go with the peep sight now. It's about dead straight. Go pull those, we'll shoot them again, and we should be close. Here's our first group from 60. This was my one high flyer that I thought we were going to be high, and then the rest of them are just a little bit low. So I probably am sight tape number 2 now that I look at this. So we'll shoot one more group. If all of our height's good, we're going to run it for sight tape number 2. We'll be good. But that is a fantastic group for this tiny little bow at 60 yards. It's if this bow, if I keep shooting it and it rocks and roll it, I bet it'll be my favorite whitetail bow of all time, because I feel like the V327 was my favorite whitetail specific bow up until potentially this bow. So we'll see. Pretty much middle of the dot. So I'm pretty sure we're sight tape number 2. Right next to it. It is a silly group down there right now. This bow is stupid. Okay, that one was finally my first little flyer, a little low. Right in there. I am a little right. Peep sight's perfect now, which is good. It's easy fix. It might be a little right. No, it's right in there. This is a pretty psycho group down there for 60 in the wind. They're all a little right. But that's our right sight tape. Sight tape number 2. We'll be able to get that on. But let's go check out this group and pull them. So absolutely fantastic group. And when I noted my one flyer, it was this one. So even if that was still in, it was right there. Awesome group for 60 yards. I gave it a couple clicks because we're a little bit right. I was wondering if it was the wind, but it's a right to left wind, so it wouldn't affect it that way. We're sighted in. This is an awesome group for 60 yards with a 5.5 axle or 5.5 brace height bow, short little bow. Phenomenal. This is incredible shooting. So I think the myth of short axle, short brace height bows don't shoot well. Well, they obviously can shoot phenomenally well. Sight tape number 2. I'm going to take off our current sight tape that's in there currently. Sight tape number 6. So I bumped down 4 notches in my sight tape, which is pretty cool. This out, try not to lose it. Okay, and then this slips right off, which is great because you got a metal tape here that you can just peel off. It's easier to maneuver and to work with. Strip that off. Sight tape number 2. These are die cut, so they're super easy to peel off. Lay that down. I'll get it on there nice and good. And then currently our sight is set to 60 yards. So we are going to rest it there. That's cool that it hangs there for a second. Okay, so I'm just getting my sight tape in like a good place on the board. And then what we can do is go over here. There's essentially 2 ways to change this, either by the indicator or by the sight tape. So got the sight tape down. Wow, that's in there tight. Pop that loose. Then we're going to bring this up, and you got a lot of adjustment here. You got this whole range. And this is just the single one for a 5-pin. There are 3 indicators that you can add for if you're using the 3-pin. But we're going to drop this in just about to 60. It's a little bit more micro adjust if you move the tape So I'm just going to get this close, so that's nice and tight. And then here, it's easier to micro adjust. And I haven't moved the actual mechanism of the sight this whole time, so we're still sighted in for 60 yards. Get it lined up for 60 right there. That's tight. Indicator's tight. Double check the top one, that's tight. You can see that's right there on 60. So middle pin still, sighted in 460, indicator at 60. You line it all up, 60, 60, 60. Now what you can do is you move your sight, and what I like to do is with a 5-pin, I like to do 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. But our middle one's at 60 right now. So what do we want our middle one to be? 40. So we're going to move our indicator to 40 right there, lock down. Now the middle's at 40. Now what we're going to do is move our indicator to 60. I know it's a little bit of a back and forth here, but we're going to move our indicator to 60 just while we're on this subject, and then we will adjust our pins. So I'm going to slide this back down to 60. And you kind of have to do that, even though it sounds repetitive. You have to do that to make sure it's all good. And I got that lined up first try with the indicator, so we're good to go. Now it's at 60, look at that. But our pins, that pin down there, not yet at 60, and I'll explain how to do that really fast. So we're going to find our left-handed tapes. So that's sight tape number 2 still sight tape number 2, the lefty version. Now what we're going to do, we're locked in at 60, but it doesn't matter, it could be on any one because now we have the tape on. We are going to take out the cartridge. And now this 5-pin is adjustable right through here. However, the middle pin is machined into the cartridge. Middle pin does not move. That's why you sight in with the middle pin. So what we're going to do now, this is our little cheat sheet that always needs to be double checked. You line up all of your pins and essentially move them on the tape, on the ground, just like this. So you put your middle one lined up with 40 yards. You move your top 2 up to 20 and 30, move your bottom 2 down to 50 and 60, lock them down, bada bing, bada boom, throw it back in the sight, and you're good to go. Theoretically. You always want to double check, but that is theoretically how it should go, that easy. So let's see, we got 40, let's see how fast I can do this. Break this one loose. 40. We're at 20. Lock that down. 30. Bump that up. Lock that down. Now you got to do 60 first. Bump it down. $50. Okay. Double check. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. That's how fast right there I just sighted in. So I get a top down. We're good. No more guessing and checking, moving around, shooting 100 arrows. You're locked in, you're good right there. That's why the cartridge system is so incredibly nice and innovative. But now, you got to double check it, of course, just for peace of mind is the biggest thing. And what I'm going to do right now is just make sure that all of these are just snug tight. You don't want to ream on them and break them, but very good snug tight with the top part of this handle. We're all good. We slip this bad boy back in. We're good there. Tighten down our little set screw. Bada bing, bada boom. We are good out 20. This tape goes down all the way to 126 yards technically. But we're not obviously going to shoot that far unless it's a foam animal. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 in line with the pins. Sight tape is on. Now what we're going to do is our home stop. So this home stop right here, this is our home stop so that you always know where 20 yards is. It's not that Allen wrench, must be this Allen wrench. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna get this exactly lined up for 60. Bump this home stop down so that it touches, and then tighten it back down. Double check that it's pushed all the way down. And we're tight. So this is what it does. Home stop. You're racking down here, shooting whatever, blah, 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 and then boom, home stop. 60 yards is your bottom pin right there. Top one's at 20. And now your 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 is good just like that. Even if you don't even have to look and you know home stop, even audibly, but you can hear it and feel it. Home stop, boom, 60 yards. So let's go double check all of our pins and make sure we're good. Just gonna run the gauntlet here, shoot them all. Good at 20. Good at 30. Good at 40. Good at 50. Can we do 5 for 5? Let's back up to 60. Right in the bottom of the dot. My 50 was actually a little low. I'm gonna double check that. Got one more arrow. Sounded right in that soft spot. Yeah, money. Must have just been a bad shot on that one. The Lift RS, the racing speed bow. A bad little sucker here. For anyone 29 inches in draw length or under, a phenomenal option if you're looking for strictly really anything. I personally would be fine hunting anything under the sun with this, but if you're a hardcore whitetail guy and want something small for tree stands, for blinds to get in and out and not have super like heavy bulky bow, this is the bow for you, no questions asked. I'm going to be using it the rest of the year on whitetails. I'm pretty pumped about it, to be honest. It's a sweet little rig, and it went together super easy. We had 0 problems. Couple shots through paper, good. Flying perfect. Fade to black. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.